Ian.
Yes.
You know we're a big Counter-Strike news podcast.
Huge. We are the esports podcast.
We have the esports and
the completely esports podcast.
And Battle Royale, public battlegrounds.
Public battlegrounds,
G. So Counter-Strike will soon start silencing abusive players. This is from rockpapershotgun.com from Natalie Clayton. So Valve, in a blog post titled "Squelching the Noise," CSGO players already have the power to mute all players, but the team feels it's currently too broad an option. So you may have noticed you can now report players for abusive communications or profile. If someone receives too many of those reports, they'll be muted for all other players by default, versus individually doing it.
Right.
Teammates can then choose to unmute them if they wish, but their cries will fall silent on everyone else. Besides text and voice chat, players can also report profiles as abusive, squashing their icon from the in-game roster. The auto-mute lasts until the account gains a certain amount of XP. You can't ride this one out on another account until the timer passes. Valve hopes the report-based system will help the community regulate itself. Regulators, mount up. Reports will be weighted towards players with longer playtime who report less frequently, hopefully avoiding mass squelching, like that noise, squelching, from bots or aggrieved sub-communities. Okay, on the surface, I really like this idea a lot, because if you played first-person shooters a lot, it's always the same people that you have to end up muting every time you play them, or in the same game session. It's always the same people that are assholes that you end up playing with. So I love the idea now. This forces people to watch how they behave, and to basically the community will say, well, you're kind of acting a fool, and you're bothering everyone, and you're screaming or whatever. And so there's basically going to be, I guess, like this time limit over time, where the longer timeout period. I love this idea.
Sure, I think in general it's a good idea. I like that it'll bring in problematic offenders muted. They're not completely done that way. I guess if they're going to play with teammates, they, like you said, they can unmute them. But who's going to want to play with someone who's that annoying? It'll probably be a fairly decent, what's the word I'm looking for? Discouragement.
Sure.
From doing this, I think, if you're trying to play reasonably. They did bring up in the article how it could be abused, and I agree. I've seen stuff like that before. A person speaking their native tongue, or not having a good microphone. You could complain, bitch about it, and get them muted. But I think they'll find a way to make it work. I know that people can be wild with kicks and that sort of thing. I've been playing Wreckfest on PlayStation 4 a lot lately, and in between every match, you just see everyone just trying to boot everyone else. Luckily, you need like 7 votes to boot the other people.
What, just to be an ass? Or
just to be an ass, yeah.
Oh,
just to
so
be an
they know
asshole.
they're not going to be booted. It's just a little game then.
Right. So, I mean, okay. I can definitely see stuff like this being abused, but I think that this is probably
better than not having it.
A step in the right direction.
Probably.
Certainly better than muting everyone.
There's no comments on the Counter-Strike blog post. There's some comments on the Rock, Paper, Shotgun page here. The one comment says, I'm tired of how every game wants to be a community because that drives engagement and ongoing revenue streams, but none of the developers think they have any responsibility for moderating their communities or even realize that it may be an issue that concerns them. That's a good point. So it's like, if you really want to build a nice, happy community, you have to have some sort of moderation.
Yeah, you can't just throw the word community around. It doesn't mean anything without some sort of organization.
And you have no right to free speech to go into a game and be an asshole and yell and scream. There's no First Amendment rights when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
What was the story? I think I brought you up that there was some...
I don't know, but it sounded freaking idiotic.
Some streamer or YouTuber that got muted from a fucking game or even got banned from it, ended up trying to sue over it, and it was thrown out of court. I wish I had that in front of me right now.
How do people not realize that something like this is technically private? Like,
it's private. And plus when you play a game, you also you sign on to terms of service.
Yeah.
As well. You're basically signing away to say that I abide by the rules of the game developers want.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you play every single modern game. So, sorry. It's not the government coming down and saying you can't print a newspaper article. My rights. Anyway, so I just think it's great. I wish back in my Unreal Tournament days that they had something like this.
Sure.
But there really wasn't. That was more for when, but that was the weird transition point when it went from like, people in the late 90s, early 2000s, not everyone had a microphone yet.
Sure,
You know,
a lot of
so
still
it was
people
just
like
typing a lot.
chatting.
But then once you started getting into teams and clans and hearing people talk, because, you know, it's like, you know, press to speak in the game, you can hear it.
Right.
You know, sometimes it'd be someone a little rowdy, but, you know, it is what it is. Not everyone can, you know, keep their composure in the heat of battle, or there's just people that just want to be dicks online. So, or show their dick online. Some people like to do that too.
Wave it around.
Wave it around, and I see it on my Twitter feed, fortunately. Anyway, Ian. All right, anything else
The
to add?
funny thing is that could be a couple of people.
That could be a lot of people now. You know, but
that's not even specific.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was specific. I was like, no,
it's
not as
not.
specific as it should have been, I guess. Then my mom ends up seeing it to me and texts me about it. I'm like, okay, now it's really weird. Now you crossed the line. Jesus Christ. Okay, moving on.